Hey, this is Marc, Katz, dating coach for smart, strong, successful women and your personal trainer for love. Welcome back to the Love You podcast, where you can learn everything you need to know about dating, relationships, sex, and men from a man's point of view. Today, I want to tell you that you're probably a hypocrite. If you're like most people, you're very good at complaining that men don't make you feel safe and secure in a relationship. But on the other hand, you're not always good at making men feel safe and secure in the relationship. So the topic of today's podcast is how you and your boyfriend can feel more secure in a relationship. And before I get into the nitty-gritty on actually how to do that, I want to talk about why some people are insecure. And as always, I don't pretend to be a psychologist. I do a lot of reading on this kind of stuff. And for years, I had clients recommending a book to me. The book was called Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller. And it talks about childhood attachment theory overlaid onto adult relationships. And this is really interesting stuff. Totally worth checking out the book. And I just want to give you a thumbnail sketch of what this means and how this plays out in your relationships right now. So let's just say there's three kinds of people. There are secure people, there are anxious people, and there are avoidant people. About 50% of the population is secure. And what does secure mean? It means that you can have a normal, intimate relationship. Intimacy doesn't scare you. Closeness doesn't scare you. You argue rationally. You're looking for something substantial. You don't tend to self-sabotage those relationships. And 50% of people are secure. About a quarter of the people are avoidant, and about a quarter of the people are anxious. And maybe this will ring a bell to you. Anxious people are folks who are, again, by definition, right? They're fearful. They wonder when the other shoe is going to drop. They try to get a reaction from their partners. They never feel that the relationship is going well. They always want to talk about where things are headed. They check up on their partner to see if he or she is talking to other people. It's constantly a grind if you're an anxious person in a relationship, because you're operating from a place of fear and scarcity that something is going to go wrong, or taking little things and blowing them up as if they're big things. And there's a reason for that. I'll get there. The other kind of folks are avoidant. Avoidant people are people who say they want an intimate relationship, but don't seem to act like it. They tend to run hot and cold, right? I love you, but I don't want to marry you. I'm all hot and heavy. I could see myself falling for you, and then I'm not going to call you for a week. You're my favorite person on the entire planet, and I'm going to verbally abuse you. That's avoidant. It's really mixed messaging, hot and cold, to the point where any reasonable person who's with an avoidant partner is going to feel anxious. Right? People's attachment styles, which is what we're talking about, attachment styles, are fluid. They could change based on who you're with. And so what you see is that over time, secure people tend to pair off and have happy marriages. And what that leaves in the dating marketplace are often a lot of anxious people and a lot of avoidant people. And they're kind of like magnets for each other. So most of my clients, not most, more of my clients are anxious. They're perpetually disappointed in their partner's behavior. They assume that if he were a good boyfriend, he'd do everything you wanted him to do. And they pair up with guys who are terrible boyfriends. The worst person to be in a relationship with is an avoidant person. Right? Because you can never feel secure. You can never relax. You can never know where you stand. Right? Because that's the nature of the avoidant person. And we don't need to go back to their childhood history to find out why they're that way. That's in the book. We're not going to do that here in this podcast. But if we just understand that the worst people in the world to date are avoidant people. Right? If you date an avoidant person, it's hard not to be anxious. It's hard to feel secure. First of all, we learn something really important. Right? Don't date avoidant guys. Don't date guys who are constantly keeping you guessing, who are poor communicators, who tell you they love you and then act like jerks. Avoiding avoidant people is a big key to having a successful relationship. But the interesting thing to consider is whether you're an anxious person, right, in other circumstances, not just with a bad guy who would make everybody feel anxious. But are you the kind of person who is with a secure guy, and again, I say this as a secure guy, and is perpetually disappointed in his behavior, right? He went out with his friends on a Friday night, and if he really loved me, he'd ask me to join him too, when he was going out with like 5 of his guy friends, right? That's anxious behavior. That's correlating his decision to hang out with his friends as some sort of indicator, right? Litmus test of how much he loves you, when it has nothing to do with that. So everything becomes a litmus test, and everything becomes a discussion, and everything can blow up potentially into a fight, right? Under the theory that if he was the perfect guy, he would do everything you wanted to in every circumstance. He would be the perfect boyfriend mind reader, right? And have no independent mind of his own. Now, that's not what you want to think, but that's how it comes across to the secure guy, right? And secure guys are often failing in relationships with anxious women, and vice versa. I mean, it's an important thing to say. This is not necessarily gender specific. If you've ever dated a guy who was insecure, you know what it's like when you could be a perfect girlfriend and he is always feeling needy around you. Why are you going out with your girlfriends? Do you have to go away for the weekend without me? Where were you last night? Right? And that in and of itself could be a constant grind. The hard part about this is that when anxious people hear this, it tends to feel like a dagger. It tends to be taken really personally when it's not personally. I think we're really looking for a measure of objectivity over this whole thing. To be successful in relationships, we all have to get a grip on our own insecurities and set our partners up for success rather than failure. The reason that anxious people fail in relationships is not just because they're dating avoidant guys. All they do like magnets, right? It's very attractive, the seduction of some guy who you can never have. He's so elusive, he's so mysterious, and you associate love with that insecure attachment style, right? These high highs and these low lows rather than the smooth ride. The problem is anxious people carry that anxiety. They assume that the secure guy is just like the anxious guy, and that he's going to disappoint them, and he's going to lie to them, and he's going to keep them off balance. So when you treat your secure boyfriend like he's one of the bad guys, it burns out the secure boyfriend. And he's going to say, this is too exhausting. What are we even fighting about here? Right? And that's really the hard part to own. So what I want you to consider, especially, we're going to dive into this when we come back from the break. We're going to talk about 2 things. All right, number 1, if you're anxious, how to get a grip on your own insecurities, right? And be a better girlfriend that's more likely to have a man want to commit to her. And also we're going to talk about how to be a secure partner. If you're already a secure partner, how to be a better girlfriend to your anxious boyfriend, right? Because anxious people are not bad people, not in the least. They're good people who've had people flee from them, right? Abandoning fathers, abandoning mothers, low self-esteem. So they've observed a pattern, and they think that pattern is, meant to bear itself out over and over and over again. In fact, that pattern can stop as soon as you choose to make it stop. So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about that. This is the Love You Podcast with Evan Marc Katz. Thanks so much. We'll be right back.